Hi and welcome to the GTN show. I'm running solo today as I thought it's probably my turn to give the boys a bit of a rest. We've got plenty of running content to get cracking with today, including some new evidence that shows how hopping every day can actually improve your running economy, a couple of very inspiring running world records, and also some recent calculations that are highlighting how the marathon times at Kona have improved rather dramatically over the last few years. And as well as all of that, we have a very exciting giveaway. It's an all bells and whistles competition entry and flights to challenge Samarkand. I'm going to crack on by taking a look at things that I have spotted online over the last week or so. This first one from Lisa Norden, doing a rather fun looking format of a triathlon race at home in Sweden. And she says, yesterday I blew some cobwebs. Swedish triathlon put in a pilot race in an indoor format, and they had to qualify in a heat with a 100-metre swim, a 2k bike and a 1k run. And then the final went like this: 100-metre swim, 2k bike, 1k run, and then a 2-minute break. And then it was run, bike, swim, another 2-minute break, swim, bike, run to finish, and a pursuit start at the end. So very much like Super League, and it sounds like Lisa was very much pushed. She says here, well, I had to work hard with a young talent, putting the pressure on for real. And it was Hoffa Mattsson who ran away with the win, and she managed to hold on for second. So yeah, she says for times, I was pretty stable around 106 for the swim, 5 watts per kilo for the bike, and 18 to 18.3 kilometres an hour, I presume that is. Well above anything I've done in training lately, so a bit of a shock to the system. But yeah, great to see Lisa mucking in over a distance that's now a long way from what she does obviously in her day-to-day competitions. This next one, I didn't actually put it into the show. You'll probably guess who did when I share it. It is the European Beer Mile Championships. Now, this is due to go out on the 1st of April, so I don't know if it's an April Fool's or if Mark is just playing April Fools on me, or if he's actually entered. Probably has entered, knowing him. But it does say the first European Beer Mile Championships plus open races. You can enter on the day, you have to bring your own beer, or you can buy them, including your entry with the official 355ml size, just to be specific. Yeah, so if that's your thing, you know where to head. Can't see it, I will be there. But you know, if they start doing a wine mile or something, then I could be swayed. Next up, there's a couple of records to share. You might remember last year we talked about the Speed Project, which is a running race that is not an official race, that doesn't have spectators, that is unofficial yet has a big following. Basically, it's a race that goes from LA, Santa Monica Pier, down to the Strip in Las Vegas, and you can do it in teams or solo. And there's been, it's a relatively new event, so records are falling. And there's a couple here. There was a new OG team record again. The team Daddy Braddy Stallions apparently set the team record for the second time in 3 years, finishing in 29 hours, 21 minutes. And then there's also a quite nice post here. It says, running is a team sport and I've got the best team. This is from Lucy, who goes as TSP Solo Lucy. She says, here's to the group that helped me achieve my goal and break the record in the process. 84 hours, 45 minutes of running. Oh, that's crazy. And I think, yeah, in a rather barren landscape in between those two mega cities, but sounds like a very cool race, something I would love to do one year. A little piece of random social media here from Nike Sportswear. Yeah, take a look at this. Admittedly not that triathlon specific, but just some very cool marketing, advertising, and yeah, digital display there. Pretty awesome. This next one is very exceptional in another way of just what the human body can do. This is posted by Florent Maladou, who is Olympic champion, and obviously had plenty of time to play around in the pool. Take a look. Yeah, he is going backwards doing dolphin kick underwater. I think that we might have to try that next time we're in the pool. Whether that will make it to a video, probably not. But yeah, that could be a fun challenge. If you guys can do it, let us know. Share that with us. That would be great for the show. Moving on, we have another pro athlete retiring. Makes me feel old because she's the same age as me. Well, this one is from Andrea Hansen, nee Andrea Hewitt, who you might recognise that name a little bit more. She has raced for New Zealand for 18 years at World Triathlon and some incredible results, including 3 Olympic Games in which she finished top 10 in every single one of them. There's a post here with the New Zealand team that says she's announced her retirement after an incredible 18-year triathlon career. They say congratulations on all your achievements. We look forward to following you in your next chapter. And if you have a look on her Instagram profile, the amount of medals from World Championships and World Triathlon Series and Commonwealth Games is very impressive. Well, I think the Tokyo Olympics did end up playing a bit of a change in Andrea's career, and she decided to start a family. And she now actually has a 2-year-old daughter, Flossie, but she came back to compete at the Commonwealth Games after giving birth and has now decided it's officially time to hang up her running shoes, so to speak. So we wish her luck with her new ventures. Staying with New Zealand, this post here will come on to race results later, but a post from Bahrain Victorious of Hayden Wild, and they've just labelled it number 1, victory straight. 2, quick, check you're alone. Number 3, the moment. Number 4, check your bro. Taylor Reid's home to second. Number 5, make sure he's okay. So yeah, take a look through those photos. Basically, Hayden Wild cruising to victory there and having plenty of time to cheer on his teammate who was in a very tight battle for the silver medal. But like I said, we'll talk more about the races later on. Another, I guess, record here. Yeah, it is. History has been made. You might have seen a post from Alex Rocker. I've seen lots of my friends posting this or reposting this. Alex Rocker has cerebral palsy, and apparently he is the first person in the world with a 76% disability to have managed to finish a marathon. And he's doing so much to inspire runners all around the world. He says, "This has been possible thanks to all my team. Thank you to all who've been cheering. I am speechless." And yeah, watch the video because you will get goosebumps watching that. It's just pretty cool to see just what he's doing for the sport, and yeah, encouraging people with disabilities to get out and reach new goals. So great stuff. This last one, so it's not quite our last, we have one more after this. I keep seeing these posts coming up from Angasu Running. Basically, Angasu Running follows the Ethiopian athletics squad and takes various photos and videos. And there's been quite a few reels made of their warm-ups, and I've selected a few here, and I just think the coordination and the choreography that goes into these running drills, I'm not sure if they're just for camera or they do these as a squad every time, but yeah, just sit back and appreciate these for a moment. And finally, I spotted a post from Tri Rating, which is Torsten Rad, who coaches all of the numbers for triathlon, bit of a numbers guru. And he's shared this post, or basically translated this post into English, and it's from a colleague of his, Simon Muller, who has basically done some calculations looking at the marathon times overall for the men and the women, and in particular looking at Kona. Now, well, the graph from Kona has shown, as we'd expect, quite an incredible recent improvement in those times. We've got the actual top 5 finishers overall, as well as the top 5 runners. And over the last few years, that stayed pretty close together if you take a look. And I think it's been the most significant improvement. Since 2017, we've seen just a constant, and you could start to question why. We'll come back to that in a moment, but there'll be lots of reasons. And then the second graph, which I find even more interesting, is the 10 fastest marathons throughout each year in triathlon, obviously in an Ironman. This is for the men, this graph here. Now, you'll notice there's a bit of a jump up in the graph in 2020, but that was purely because there were less races during COVID, and therefore the average was just a little bit lower. But that has improved quite significantly and at a relatively steady rate over the years. You don't see quite as much jump for the overall top 10 as you do at Kona. But there's several theories behind this. I mean, we are seeing, obviously, Kona last year was probably one of the the most record-breaking years we've seen, with a new overall course record, a new run record for Gustav Iden, and now Sam Laidlow with a new bike record. So the times are just constantly falling. And then after all that, we saw Patrick Lange run a 2:30.32 at the Ironman in Israel to break the previous record of 2:34 by a huge margin. Now, I can hear you guys shouting at me. There's a few obvious kind of alarm bells around those two that I've mentioned, Gustav and Patrick, and the fact that they were both running in shoes which are now banned. However, if you take away those times, you'll still notice an incredible significant improvement in the running. And there's some theory around this, and Bjorn Giesman actually looks beyond the shoes. I mean, obviously, as spectators, most people are probably jumping at, well, it is the improvement in technology, but he's suggesting that it could be the way the races are currently playing out and have been over the last few years, and the fact that the swim has become more important, so to speak, and actually the drafting effects, even though it's non-drafting racing, but the importance of being in the pack on the bike is playing on the fact of the athletes being able to save their legs enough to then run a really fast marathon, and pointing out that those who, especially at Kona last year, didn't make that first pack would just not make it onto the podium because they had to cycle so hard they then couldn't back that up with such a fast run. So he's suggesting that actually the swim could be, in the long run, changing the run, so to speak. So it's going to be interesting to see where that starts to level out. And for example, we're going to have the Ironman World Champs in Nice for the men this year, and it'll be interesting to see if that stat changes and how. We obviously don't even know the course yet, so what the run will look like, but whether we'll see record-breaking times on the run or less so, because there'll be less advantage of being in a pack on that course. Now, interestingly, there is less of a correlation of improvement when it comes to the middle distance or the half distance. So Jan Frodeno set the half marathon time of a 1:06.34 at the 70.3 World Champs back in 2018, and that hasn't been bettered. I mean, not surprisingly, because that is incredibly fast, but there seems to be a little less of a continuous trajectory of the improvement at the rate we're seeing over the marathon distance. And the same goes for the women. There's not as obvious a change, which then I guess takes away from the fact of the shoe technology, and you have to question all again, like why is this? But they were highlighting the fact that the top 10 times for the women in the marathon in an Ironman has been pretty similar since 2010. So that's for the last 13 years, and saying that they tend to fluctuate mostly between a 2:54 and a 2:58. And obviously recently we have seen some outliers of Laura Philipp clocking a 2:44 and a 2:45 marathon, Anne Hag with a 2:46, Kat Matthews going under 2:50 with a 2:49. So we might be about to see those averages start to change as those athletes really push at the front of the field. But I just thought it was really interesting to sort of hear that slightly different angle and see it's not just about the shoes, but what exactly is happening when it's coming to these increasing times, and where is that line going to stop? Because it's so much more exciting, I think, than running, and the fact that there is still scope for those run times to get that much faster. It's now time to move on to Tri News, and this is a little piece about a group of women who've gone about trying to break down the barriers within triathlon and encourage more people to get into the sport. There's a group of friends who, some of them swam, some cycled a bit, some ran a bit, but felt that there were barriers and that doing an Ironman was something that was potentially out of their reach. But after a bit of chat, they were like, right, well, we want to do this and prove that it can be done. And they set up a group called 10 Iron Women. This is a British-based initiative. Anyway, it was 10 of them, and they went about doing their Ironman, and great, what next? Well, actually, along the way, they encouraged a huge amount of women to join them. And this has kind of been ongoing and growing ever since. And they've recently put together a little feature film, a 20-minute video that is on YouTube about their journey. And they've chosen an event, I was going to say race, but it's more of a sportif triathlon they did last year, Castle to Coast, that tells a little bit about their journey, their story, as well as following them throughout their training and this. And I just think it's a really nice piece. It's promoting women in sport, but also just inclusion in sport. So take a look at the snippet now, but I would suggest going to check out the full video if you've got time.
You are pushing yourself to the limit, and there's a sense of, oh, I have absolutely nothing else to give.
You just keep your legs turning over.
One arm in front of the other.
You're capable of so much more than you think you are.
It is about breaking the barriers in your mind about like what you can or cannot do.
Well, a lot of that touches on dealing with fears of being an outsider, whether that's due to race or gender or just barriers that you put up yourself. And there's a quote here from one of the girls, Pilvi, says, "It is about breaking down barriers you have in your mind of what you can or cannot do. If you want to know more about them, or you're interested in starting triathlon and you're watching this, then do check out their website that's on screen now, and we'll put in the description below as well. You might like this next bit of news. If you could do something for just 5 minutes a day, every day, that improved your running economy, I reckon you would. So you probably want to listen up. There's been some recent research on hopping. Now, I'm going to go into the details in a moment. Admittedly, it is double leg hopping, which I personally think is jumping, but I'll need to look into science of that. Maybe you guys could let me know exactly what that means. But basically, this is a study looking at plyometric training with helping your running efficiency. And the randomized control study used 34 amateur runners who were either put in the control group or the hopping exercise group. It was a 6-week study, and the exercise group had to perform 5 minutes of double-legged hopping exercise daily. And they progressively increased their loading by just increasing the number of hopping bats, so 10 seconds each, which was steadily increased while the break between the sets was decreased. And they measured the pre and post intervention, the running economy, peak oxygen uptake, so VO2, and respiratory exchange ratio. And these were measured during 5-minute stages, running at 10 kilometers an hour, 12 kilometers an hour, and 14 kilometers an hour. And the findings are really quite exciting and reassuring. There was no real change noted at 10 kilometers an hour, but at the higher speeds of 12 and 14, there were noticeable differences. So it says here, firstly, 6 weeks of daily hopping improved running economy and increase the respiratory exchange ratio at those higher speeds. Obviously, it didn't change the VO2 max because it's not really going to be making you work your aerobic system particularly hard by hopping on the spot, if that is you are a regular runner, which they do point out that. I really don't think it's that groundbreaking news that plyometrics is going to help with running economy. That has been known for a long time. It's more the method and the way that this was incorporated into the training which makes a difference. Often plyometrics is thought of as only being for elite runners. It needs coaching. It's going to take a lot out of your legs and potentially make you more tired doing box jumps and more technical things. But I think the point of this exercise or this experiment was looking at just amateur runners running at 12 or 14 kilometers an hour. So a pace that amateur runners were quite likely to be racing at could show that significant difference was something that you could do at home. And they were also noting that due to it being a very simple exercise and not as explosive as, say, box jumps or bounding or something like that, that actually the risk of injury is really minimal. In fact, previous studies which had proven the benefits of plyometric training had gone for 3 sessions a week that included explosive jumps and gym work. So this is the first experiment of its kind, and I think it's a pretty encouraging finding for all of us just amateurs who maybe don't even go to the gym or don't have that much time or put off doing something that looks a bit daunting, when if you think, well, just 5 minutes, it's the time it takes you to clean your teeth morning and evening added together. I'm not suggesting you try and do these whilst cleaning your teeth, but yeah, interesting findings, and I look forward to hearing a little bit more about that, and maybe it's something we should investigate. All right, it is giveaway time. I am feeling generous. No, realistically, GTN and Challenge Samarkand are feeling generous. They teamed up, and there is a giveaway for one person to win race entry for Challenge Samarkand, which is held on the 17th of September later this year. And included in that, return flights, as well as 3 nights of accommodation. So a pretty epic prize, and if you are looking for some incentive to get training, well, this will most certainly be it, and it gives you plenty of time to train for that. The entries are open now. You just need to go to the description beneath this, click on the link, and you'll have a question to answer to be able to enter this competition. The entries are open until the 8th of April, and we'll be announcing the one lucky winner in our show on the 12th of April. Good luck. All right, race results, and you can tell the season is really starting to build because we've got quite a few results to get through today, as well as a bit of a preview for a big race next weekend. Well, the first was New Plymouth World Cup down in New Zealand, and that was one we touched on earlier on in the show by Hayden Wild with an incredibly just comfortable, impressive performance. His run time was 14:30, and you could see in that picture that he'd turned around to cheer his teammate on before crossing the line. So he absolutely dominated that race. It was his teammate Taylor Reid who took second, but it was a sprint finish very much between him and Ricardo Batista, who ended up in third for Portugal. And the women's side, it was Nicole van der Kay who took the win for New Zealand as well. Ainsley Thorpe making it to 1-2, and then Solveig Losveth from Norway in third place. place. And this race had quite a lot of eyes on it due to the return to higher level or World Cup racing by Gwen Jorgensen. And she didn't quite make the pack in the bike, and I think worked incredibly hard and ended up catching up a huge amount on the run, but had to settle with 14th for her kind of second race back. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes from here. And yeah, she's certainly got her work cut out trying to qualify for that team mixed relay, but exciting to watch her race again. Well, from down under in sunny New Zealand to Norway for the Winter Triathlon World Championships. And the men's race was won again by Hans Christian Tungsvik from Norway. He does dominate this sport. Second place was Marek Valsfus from the Czech Republic and Franco Passavento from Italy in third. The women's race was won by Italy's Sandra Meerhofer, Ingrid Lorvik from Norway in second, and Karina Valche from Austria was in third. We also had a mixed relay there. That was won by Italy, beating Norway on their home ground to second, and it was Romania who finished third. Over to Australia, and then there was the traditional race of Hell of the West, a slightly unique distance of a 2k swim, 80k bike and a 20k run. And it was a full Australian podium for the men's and the women's races. Ashley Gentle absolutely stormed through that to take the win ahead of Ellie Salthouse and Kylie Simpson in third. The men's race was won by Max Newman with an overall time of 3:28 minutes ahead of second place Kieran Stork, and Josh Amberger finishing in third, 10 minutes behind Max Newman, which just shows you the class of that athlete. We also had Ironman 70.3 Geelong. That was won in the women's race by Grace Deck and Radka Kalfelt in second, Lotta Wilms in third. And the men's race was won by Mike Phillips. Second place went to Steve McKenna, and Nicholas Free finished in third. And the final race of this packed 70.3 weekend was Ironman 70.3 Davao. That was won by Sarah Crowley on the women's side, Lauren Brandon second, and Lotta Wilms in third. And the men's race was won by Felipe Azevedo. Now, bear with me for the next two podium finishes. In second place was Onjen Stojanovic, and in third we had Tuan Chun Chang. Now, I do need to just have a quick look ahead at this weekend's racing, because it is Ironman 70.3 Oceanside, which is often dubbed as like the season opener, the unofficial beginning of 2023. And this year is even more so. It is totally stacked and it's getting a lot of hype, and I think rightly so. But before we look at the athletes competing, there's been a little bit of chat coming out from Oceanside. Apparently the water quality isn't great at the moment, and the athletes have been suggested or recommended not to actually get in and swim. So if for some reason it ends up not being a swim, obviously that will make for some very interesting changes in predictions, but hopefully, fingers crossed, the water is clean and we get to see a full triathlon for this very exciting race. Now, controversially, the start times were released, and Holly Lawrence spoke up very boldly about this, because the women, the pro women, are being set off just 2 minutes after the pro men. Now, in a normal race, this would probably cause issues, because the likes of Holly Lawrence and Paula Finley, who are incredibly strong swimmers, are going to be probably catching rather close to the men in that swim and potentially even overtaking, so swimming more than 2 minutes quicker than some of the slower men. Now, in Oceanside, this race has got a huge field for the men, and which is likely to show that some of the swims will probably be slower than maybe even normally in a 70.3. And Holly was pointing this out, actually saying that it's going to make the race unfair, and this is potentially to give her an advantage, because the stronger female swimmers will then end up being in amongst those those professional men, and potentially getting more of a boost and more of a help on the bike. And the women just want a fair race. They want their own stage. And I guess, yeah, this goes for sort of the debate of wanting to have women separately and having their own highlights. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I just really hope that the referees are on it and there's enough space on the road so that these slower pro men do not get in the way and ruin the pro women's race. But talking of which, we should probably take a look at the field. Now, this is a silver tier race. It's $50,000 up for the prize purse. And as a result of it, and being this big hype race, it's got the highest strength of field that we've seen this year. So for the women, the strength of field, if everyone entered, turns up, is an 87.55 compared to the men's at an 86.4. Now, on the women's start list at the moment, we've got the likes of Holly Lawrence and Paula Finley, like we've mentioned before. Chelsea Sodaro is very much in the mix, one to watch, and interesting to see her race over the shorter distance as the reigning Ironman world champ. We've also got Kat Matthews returning. She kept her cards close to her chest, and I think she's trying to avoid too much pressure on herself for this race, as it is her first comeback 6 months after breaking or fracturing her skull and breaking her back. So it's great to see her back racing, and yeah, interesting just to see where she's at. We've got the incredibly strong runner Tamara Jewett, who could well be in the mix depending on how the dynamics of this race play out. We've also got Grace Theck, who's just coming off the back of that win in Geelong. She's going to be making it over to the States hopefully in time. It'll be interesting to see how her legs fare after that win just last weekend. And then we've got the men's race, and the field is huge, but it's also really quite high quality at the top. And there's a few athletes who've been wildcards, which are changing, actually lowering that strength of field, even though the racing is still going to be really high, if that makes sense, because some of the athletes like Jan Frodeno, who's been off the rankings, is going to be racing. So this is apparently his final year, so I think there's going to be a lot of attention just seeing how he can fare against the young guns that are coming up through. Lionel Sanders and Sam Long will be on there. They will be probably hoping that the water quality isn't great, because I'm sure the swim is going to be pretty fast if the swim happens, with the likes of Ben Canute and Jan Frodeno trying to drop the rest of the field in that swim. Jason West on the start lane, Jackson Laundrie, Chris Lieferman, Mickey Tagholt. There's going to be a lot of very serious contenders, and as always it's hard to predict, but I'm excited to watch this race, and just really hope that we get a full triathlon and a full spectacle on the weekend. It's now time to share your photos back with you, and we've got starting off with a less positive one from Rebecca, but we're wishing Rebecca well. She sends us in from Michigan, and it's just a picture of her bandaged foot. And she said, I've been making really good progress on my swim and run over the past couple of months, but after falling and spraining my ankle, training has been put on hold for the foreseeable future. Right now, my training consists of learning how to operate crutches and navigate a college campus on them. Well, Rebecca, we wish you a speedy recovery, and you never know, the upper body strength from your crutches might transfer to your swimming. Fingers crossed. This next one comes from Paul, and we do have his permission for this video. You'll see why I'd make that point in a moment. But first, we have this picture, and it says it's of his 28-year-old Soft Ride Power V. And he says, after 22 years away from the sport of triathlon, after 7 Ironmans in a row, I decided to do a sprint race at the age of 52 with my son, aged 26 years old, his girlfriend and brother, and wanted to do it on my fave bike, the 1995 Soft Ride Power V with zip disc and deep V 650C wheels. He looks very proud and happy on his bike there. I think the guys would be excited to see that bike. I know Mark would be. He says, importantly here, I also beat my son by 5 minutes. I still got it. However, he then finishes it with, my daughter filmed the finish line shoot where I tripped over and grazed my knee, but still finished. Well, Paul, we're glad to hear that you are totally fine after that. Just maybe practice your triathlon race celebrations a bit more next time. This next one from Martin, his Madone Speed from Muttontown, New York, USA. It says, finally warm enough in the northeast portion of the USA to take Black Beauty out for a ride. Note, it's a Madone Speed I purchased at the beginning of COVID. Supply chain issues. Oh my God, that is one long wait, and I'm so glad to hear that the sunshine has come out for you to be able to take that bike out and give it an airing. This next one, Martin and his Cervelo P3X. Oh, there's no picture of his bike though, but it is a beautiful picture. This is from the Addo Elephant Park, trying to relax 2 days before the big race in South Africa by doing a safari in Addo Elephant Park. A must do if you're in this part of the country. Oh, I must admit, Martin, that is brave going there before. I have done Ironman South Africa and I've been to Addo Elephant Park, but I did it the other way around to you, so I could thoroughly enjoy it. But hopefully you were able to really embrace the beautiful scenery and these incredible animals before your race, and I hope you had a great race. Let us know how you got on with that. If you guys are out and about racing, training, doing anything tri related, and you've got photos or videos of that, we would love to see them. So you know what to do. You can share those using the link that's on the description right now and also in the description below. Well, last week, James chose this photo of Mark for the caption competition. And we've had a few good suggestions. This first one from Kenneth McBeath says, the rage you feel when your goggles fall off at the start of a race. And he's got an alternative one here, and he says, for your Scottish viewers. So I don't know how many Scottish viewers we have. I'm not going to do a Scottish accent in case we do have any. But he says, there's a giant jobby, the water, it's this big. Now, I didn't know what jobby was, and I included this, and I have just found out that, yeah, it wasn't what I thought it was. But I'm going to leave it to your imagination because you probably didn't need me to spell that one out. Anyway, that was not the winner. Our next runner-up is Jemiah Newport. It says, that's not what they meant when they asked for an extra pull boy. Interesting one. Bike and dog trips. Come on now. Chlorine in the pool doesn't fix everything. Yeah, it really doesn't, guys. Please make sure you go to the bathroom before you get in the pool. Far too many bathroom jokes. I haven't included any more here, I'm afraid, because that one was enough for me. We've got Yuki M who says, Mark, I heard on your mark, get set, go. Where is everyone? I jumped in when my name was called. But the winner this week of the GTN Cap is Chris Debonair. I could have sworn I was only this far behind James. I mean, yeah, that's probably a compliment to James, isn't it, with that one? Well done, Chris. Do get in touch and we will get a GTN Cap sent out to you. And for your chance to win the caption competition, take a look at this picture. Well, you guys know what to do. Please leave your caption suggestions in the description below for your chance to be a winner next week. Well, that is it for this week's show. We do have a fun video coming up, which the three presenters we might be a little bit embarrassed of. Anyway, it's an April Fool's video, but it's also a HIIT workout. So if you do want some entertainment on Saturday, keep your eyes peeled for that one. If you have enjoyed the show, do please give us a like, and remember to get all of our videos at GTN, you just need to click on that globe and you won't miss any more. And a final video for you to take a look at before you go. How long can we run at world record marathon pace? And by we, it's not just presenters. We got some of our staff involved as well. It's a fun watch.